Welcome, everybody, to Beyond the Booth, Skyline's peek under the hood, behind the scenes on all things trade shows. I'm very happy to be joined by two special guests for this episode where we're going to dig into some crazy stories about all things that happen on the trade show that you see coming and some that you don't. I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves. Go ahead, Duane.
I'm Duane Griffith, Vice President of Strategic Accounts. Happy to be here. I have been in the industry and with Skyline since 1993 in a variety of capacities, but all revolving around the client experience and performance and execution on the trade show floor. So happy to be here today.
Amazing. Thanks, Duane. Sonja?
Hi, I'm Sonja Stricklin, Senior Manager of the Client Experience team here at Skyline. I've been with Skyline since 2007. And, over the years, I've had lots of opportunities to work with all kinds of projects, clients, and show floor experiences. I'm passionate about building those strong client relationships, supporting the team, and finding solutions when things don't always go according to plan. So I'm excited to be here today and share some of those stories, lessons learned, and those behind the scenes moments from the show floor.
Fantastic. Thank you. And as always, I'm Brian Lanning. I'm a Senior Managing Director here at Skyline. I work on the strategic side of the business, on the key account side, working with clients. I've been with Skyline since 2005, and I've been in the industry. This is my 30th year since 1996. So we're going to get right into it. One of the things we wanted to talk about and how we're going to kick this off is I think we went in some of our pre-calls, we talked about like the best laid plans and how sometimes they just go off the track by no fault of anyone's other than the trade show gods, really. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to start off with just kind of running through some of the checks that Skyline implements to make sure or to mitigate some of the instances where these problems can arise on the show floor, because everyone, when you talk about it, and we talk about it with clients, and it's actually kind of funny, is that, well, it's trade shows, right? How many times have you heard that? Well, it's trade shows. Something is bound to happen where you're going to have to react to it. So based on, there's a lot of knowledge on this call. I just off the top of my head was writing some things down as to how Skyline goes about trying to eliminate some of the potholes or how we can navigate the road to the trade show. The first is obviously through discovery, right? Through a thorough discovery, making sure that we are getting all the information and that the design itself actually aligns with all of the objectives and KPIs that the client is looking to accomplish on the show floor. That's first and foremost. But then as that gets approved and as we start moving down the path to production, bringing project management in early enough so that they're part of the process, so they can actually raise their hand and say, hey, that may be an issue on the show floor, there's a better way to do that, or having them involved in the process really provides a heck of a lot of continuity throughout the entire process itself. Also providing a dedicated service coordinator and having them assigned to each account so that we can actually have a direct pipeline to the shows, and the show site is something that we do as well. Internally, process driven. Like, I know from a project management standpoint, we look at things and it has to follow a process. Having dedicated handoffs between project management, graphics, service, and actually manufacturing, whether it's graphic fit and finish, where they need to be placed, what type of substrates and finishes actually need to be applied to some of the custom elements. And one of the ways this communication is streamlined is working through Workfront. That's our internal communication tool here at Skyline, where it's kind of the single source for truth, right? All communications, all departments work through that single source. We also have an internal digital team. So we're being able to ideate on ideas that goes back through design, but as well as throughput and execution, being able to fulfill through our team, as well as troubleshoot and have them pick up issues well before they happen or even take place on site. Another one that came up was graphics. Graphics is a huge portion of what we do. And it's not always us that are doing it. Now, we have 2D designers that can help and provide like agency support. But a lot of times we're getting files in from either an agency of record, or we're getting those in from the clients themselves. So graphic pre-flights for resolution and sending out graphic samples for color matching. That's something we do to make sure to ensure that we have all of the things moving in the right direction. Then through manufacturing, a full set of setup instructions. That's something you don't see every day. Like I've seen exhibits on the show floor come out, and there's just a wrinkled ball of CAD that you see, and you're like, "What is this?" Right? So, like, how do I expect I&D teams to work around this? But this is something where we have full setup instructions. They're binded. They're in full color, measured out CADs, so people can tell the distance from one thing to another. And then in part of these setup instructions and part of our process is a show summary preparation. So that actually goes to all of our partners, as well as to the client, that has CADs, graphic maps, the physical orientation of the booth inside the hall, where the electrical drops are supposed to be, the rigging layouts, and then includes all of the contact information for all the parties involved, the supervision, the client, all their cell phone numbers, all of those type of things. Then on our show floor, after we manufacture, full exhibit staging. Again, kind of a rarity in our industry, but that's whether you own it, whether you're renting it, whether it's something coming off our assembly line. It's full exhibit staging, so it's show ready prior to shipping. Inside our service centers, we've instituted a cleanliness policy, so everything is checked, laundered, washed, or dry cleaned prior to going out to make sure that everything is show ready, and that all the parts and pieces are actually accounted for, so we're not missing screws. Everything, we know that everything is going to work when it gets there. Then we communicate all of that information down to our I&D teams that are boots on the ground in the actual trade show cities. So full labor calls with the on-site crew and the on-site supervisor. So you're speaking directly to the person who's going to be overseeing this setup. And sometimes the clients are even involved in that if they like to be. Sometimes they want hands off. Sometimes they get invited. And then sometimes, depending upon size and scope of the project, we actually send personnel. A lot of times your salesperson will be on site. They're having all of this information with intimate knowledge of the process throughout. But sometimes there's an account manager. Sometimes there's a dedicated supervisor that travels with these exhibits. But for the most part, we send personnel just when it's very specific instances, because again, the communication process and the checks that we have allow us to work with our crews just in those trade show cities. Recently, I would say, and maybe Duane, you can help me on this, I think it was 3 years ago when we brought on Shipwell. Do you remember?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I think it was 3 years ago. One of the blind spots in and basically everything was shipping, right? Once it gets on a truck, where is it? How do I get in touch with? When are they arriving? Rather than have to pick up the phone, we instituted a software called Shipwell that allows us to do live real-time ship tracking. Again, just some of the things that we've implemented to go along with some of those checks to kind of mitigate some of the circumstances that come up.
We don't have to hunt down our vendors either for BOLs, like they're all right there, easy access to.
Again, the key to all of this, when we start talking about this, and you'll notice a common theme through everything that I've talked about, is communication, right? How does seamless communication and how does information pass from department to department and then ultimately down to show site? The I&D team doing pre-flight checks on the show site prior to the freight even arriving. They're checking electrical drops. They're making sure the rigging is done correctly. The orientation. Are there any issues at the show? Like we've run into it where we had no idea that the space was only 12 feet high. Like I've run into that in New Orleans. If you've ever exhibited in New Orleans, where you walk in and you're like, that first row of exhibits, you're like, how am I going to put a hanging sign up here? And that's not in any of the information. Right.
Or why is my hanging sign hanging over my neighbor's booth?
Right, exactly, because nothing's mapped out on the show floor as of yet, right? They don't have any of the aisles or any of the aisle carpet marked. So things like that come up. Again, I&D going in, making sure that everything's done correctly. And the whole point of this is to ensure that we have the ability to react to clients' needs, right? or any unforeseen obstacles. We try and streamline everything that we can to ensure that when inevitably something comes up on the show floor that's going to throw a curveball at us, kind of make us take a step back, or gather the troops, circle the wagons and figure out what we're going to do about a certain issue or a certain problem. We have the ability to react because everything else is so streamlined and seamless. So I know we didn't want to just hear me talk the entire time. So those were just some of the things I wanted to go through to show you that even after all of those things, even after all of those checks, everything that I just talked about, we can still run into issues, into crazy things that happen on the show floor that require us, the show goes on, right? That require us to react. I always say when I'm speaking with clients and they're like, hey, is it okay if I get an extra day in terms of graphics? Or can I get an extra day? Or can I get this set up on a certain day? I'm like, we can do whatever you like, but the show's going to open when the show's going to open, right?
That's the one thing that's absolute. It's the day and the time that's posted. It's happening.
Yeah, right. That they're gonna ring that bell. Those doors are going to open and people are going to come in. So just know that as you start to make those changes, that we're going to have to react to them as quickly as possible, because again, that's a deadline that cannot be moved.
Yeah.
So the reason for getting you guys in here is because you guys are what Skyline superheroes, right? Like, there are issues and things that come up on the show floor that need to be dealt with that clients never saw coming, or they're just, when we talk about this, when we talk about things like that affect how people view trade shows or how people react to things on the show floor, there's always a blind spot. There's always a freight gets handed off to the Teamsters, and then, right? Okay. Does it all end up in your booth? When did it arrive? There's always sort of that blind spot where it's kind of out of our control. I know you guys have some stories from the road. Duane, I'd love to hear,
Sure.
Kick it off with a start of one, because I also have a couple in my back pocket as well.
So just even kind of taking it a step back, when I'm talking to people that maybe not be well versed in shows or very experienced, it's our process. I break it down into 3 phases in bite-sized pieces for them. It's the creative piece at the very beginning, the discovery, gathering all of those things so we can bring their brand to life. And then it's that center section that is the reality portion. How do we build what came out of that creative person's mind that everybody wants to see and make it so it can be broken down, put into crates, and travel from city to city and maintain its integrity? And then 3, the service piece, at show, after show, all of those things. So I like to run through that from A to Z with people so they fully understand how much detail is involved here. If you've built a house, okay, a lot of details, but it doesn't break down into crate and move from city to city to city to city and get set back up again.
You're not moving that house to somewhere sunny in the wintertime and putting it back up. Yeah.
But great business model, I think maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna write that down. I think they just call that RVs, right?
I think you're right. So despite all of the planning and expertise, and I really think that people that have an opinion about trade shows, it's still by far the best, least expensive way to bring your product or market or service to the masses, right? And we have a lot of expertise at Skyline in every area that goes into building the experience. For as an example, just to kind of kick us off, brand new client, first show, ideal rental, so they can be flexible and nimble going from space to space. We do the discovery, the planning, build a beautiful exhibit, stage in our facility, even bring in the lead I&D technician who's going to be on site to preview that with us, help us pack that down for efficiencies at show while we're building. I show up maybe 9 a.m., let's call it on a Saturday, which was supposed to be kind of our day one, get going, checking electrical, carpet. And what I mentioned earlier about the hanging sign over the wrong space, this is reality.
That was legit.
It was next door over the 20 by 20, already noted by our I&D partners. You got to go to the service desk, put your ticket in, get in line to move it, back over the proper space. Problem 2, ship well. Our freight, our partners, and they have connections in these variety of venues. It arrived, goes to the marshaling yard, and then to the convention center, only to find out that there was damage to the exhibit and crating of the exhibit or client that was in front of us. So we couldn't get at our freight while they went and opened all of the crates, pictures for the claim that they needed to follow. So that was about a 6-hour process while our freight was stuck further back in the trailer.
Behind them.
So what do you do? You got a team of I&D that is being paid by the hour or by the project with nothing to do, and we're not going to have freight, right? So we got to kind of pivot. Client shows up, sees absolutely nothing done, and we had talked about kind of, if things go according to plan,
panic.
They come in, nothing. So you kind of take them through that. And so what we were able to do, once we received our freight, we got great partners in any city that you're going to be exhibiting in. We just rallied. We stayed late and got caught up, 10 o'clock. So that next morning when that client came back, we're back on track. Most of the things that led up to that, they weren't privy to or didn't need to know, but we got back on track. But the point of that is we had everything as tight as it could possibly be, and due to unforeseen, out of our control, out of anybody's control, things are going to happen. And if you're prepared to just kind of weather some of those things, take it calm, we'll get through it. We'll get through it.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest things. One of my favorite things about this industry, and I love hearing it from clients, is when someone sees the finished product and they go, "It looks just like the rendering." And my response is, "It's supposed to." That's what you signed off on. But it always kind of cracks me up when we talk about, like, at show, what your job is or your relationship is with the client. It really is to calm them, to keep them even keel. And I think the fact that the way you go about it, and Sonja, the way you go about it on the show floor, really provides a lot of confidence in them, simply because, we're going to react to this. We already have a plan in place. This is what's going to happen, and then executing that plan so that for that one day, heart rates might have been up a little bit, but coming in the next morning, that's why I chose Skyline. Right? That's why Skyline's such a good partner, because of the fact that they have relationships on the show floor. They have someone that's going to be even keel and work out a plan of attack and make sure, put in the extra time to make sure that it gets set up and gets back up to speed in time for the show to open up correctly. Those are the kind of things, just like you said, no matter what you do, you make a plan, God laughs. Right. and
Not
that's
today.
Even more, that's so appropriate.
I mean, this industry in particular, and you guys know, you've been in this it's so much about who you know, because all of these venues are different, and having these connections and contacts within there, month over month, show over show, year over year, it matters when you need to get something done. It's a huge industry, but it's a small industry. Really?
No doubt.
Yeah.
Like they say, I think everyone I've talked to, or when I first got into the industry, quite some time ago, they said, if you're in it for more than 3 years, you're never going to leave. And they were right. I haven't gone anywhere yet.
Here we are.
Well, there's also, just like you said, you start formulating those relationships. It's a very specific set of knowledge that you gain throughout the time that you're in the industry. And then once you leave and go somewhere else, even if you're moving to another marketing team, and I've seen this happen with clients of mine who are like, "No, I don't know if I want to be in the trade show part anymore. I'm going to another company," and they get into the marketing department in another company. And then they find out that they used to run a trade show program. And guess what happens? They're right back running their trade show program at the other marketing team. Because again, they don't have to bring everybody up to speed. Like they already know what drayage is. They already know how to navigate a show book, things like that. So that's a great story. I've never heard of my freight's trapped behind someone
man.
else's freight before.
I
That
could
was
see the trailer. I could
Oh
see
my
the
gosh,
stuff
the
back there,
worst.
but couldn't get at it until they got through
yeah.
that claim process. Yeah.
Oh,
Have you ever had
that's
the dreaded we put empty stickers and we weren't really
Ooh.
ready for that and try to go grab them out of the empties.
for sure.
Please
Climbing
don't
over,
be
yeah.
back at the booth.
It's
As crazy as it
we've
sounds, I
had to
dug
do
in a
that.
crate. I dug in a crate 2 weeks ago in San Diego to pull some client lamps out that were meant for their shelves that were in the same exact boxes as like their pendant lights. So there was an assumption made that they were extra lights. Well, they
Yeah.
were different lights. And San Diego is a great facility and it's kind of small. And this was a little bit more of an intimate event. Go back there with our partners. He knows the guys back there by name. We identify the 6 crates and go, okay, well,
They gotta be
here's
in
our
here
percentage
somewhere.
chance. We think it's in one of these 3. So we start, and it was
Going
in the
crate
second
back.
one, some minor dismantling, in we go and out you go. And so yes, that is, that happens, but
I've
far
had
too
that
often.
same thing. It's funny you brought that up. I've had that happen in Orlando, and nothing is worse than having to climb over empties in Orlando when it's pouring rain outside. Like it's
Oh,
95 degrees and pouring rain, and you're trying to find your crate to figure out like, hey, oh, we someone walked by and slapped an empty sticker on it, and away it went. Or they took it without the empty sticker on it.
Yes.
Like I've had that happen.
Yeah.
Like they just assumed it was empty because it was still in the aisle. Again, things that you have to pivot,
Mhm.
you have to react to. I'll keep you on your toes for sure, for sure. Sonja, what do you got? I know you have a couple
Okay,
of
let's
stories.
see. Let me see what's in the box here. I'll go freight too, because this one was pretty fresh on the brain. Also in San Diego, oddly enough. But so we love to ship our booths Advance Warehouse. We always want to go to Advance when possible. And that's another thing. It's like you plan for that and get it there early so it'll be in your booth space and you don't have to worry about the direct to show and the marshalling yard and the waiting game, of when is it going to get to my booth. So we shipped this booth to Advance, and I was actually on site supervising the show, and client called me over and she was like, well, we've got half our booth here, but I'm not sure where the other 3 pieces are. So, I tracked it, pulled everything up. We have a POD, everything looks good. I'm like, okay, let me go to the desk and check with the I&D team. I&D team said, this is all we got. This is all that the warehouse guys saying that we had. So it kind of became a he said, she said sort of situation. Like, we have a POD from the freight team, but also the warehouse is like, we only got these pieces. So after couldn't find it, we were like, okay, we've got to figure something out here. So went with the partner as well, and we went and asked for video evidence from the Advance Warehouse because we literally could not find this freight, and it was just clocks ticking. It's like we've got another day to get this booth set up. And fortunately, they let us do the video surveillance, and we were able to see when it unloaded and signed for, there were not all the pieces. So with that evidence, we were able to go back to the freight team and show, hey, this really did not get delivered. And they quickly got in all their hubs and checked, and luckily it was sitting in San Diego hub. We were able to get it within like hours, and I&D team stayed late. And honestly, it was just cool to like be there with the client, because she just was like, I'm gonna trust you, let you do your thing. And then on the booth, I was like, go to dinner, go do something, go have a drink, cocktail.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. It's coming.
Yeah. Go to yoga.
Yeah. Take a walk. But when she got back, it was all built and up, and it worked out. And it's just one of those things where it's like, even though someone signed for it, or didn't mark it less the pieces, or someone stacked something where it looked like 2 pieces versus 1, you just never know. So
Yeah.
that was a fun one.
Those again, like I think there's a certain respect that you gain with clients, walking them through the battles, so to speak, right? Is by you keeping your head about you, going, here's what we're going to do. Here's the next three steps in order to
Yeah.
ensure success.
Yeah.
And sort of a been there, done that mentality, right?
Sure.
Like when you're calm, they're calm.
Yeah.
Never let them see you sweat, right? You can use all the cliches. But Duane, I think you touched on it, and Sonja, you definitely mentioned it, is like going back to your freight team, going back to the relationships you have with the venue, even relying on. I think that's why it's such a great thing for Skyline to have I&D teams in those local cities, because they're working in that venue consistently. Right. They know who the rigging crews are. They know who the electricians are. They know who the Teamsters are. One of the tricks that always comes up, and we actually taught our clients this back in the day, is that, hey, if you can't find your freight, look at your booth number and go visit all the booth numbers that have those numbers in it. Because a lot of times if your
It'll
booth
be
number is
sitting in a
2402, it's going to be in 4202. Or it's going to be in 2042. Someone's going to read that, misread it, and they're going to go deliver it and drop it off. That's like your first line of defense. I always thought that was interesting to be like, well, I know where I got to go first before I start digging through, heading out to empties or going back to looking at video. I actually have a story as well. This was actually in Chicago, and there was a huge storm outside. We were on the second to last day of setup. So we're getting close to finish, because the last day is like they bring all their product and merchandise, the actual booth. And my client's standing there and going, do you feel rain? And I'm like, what? Oh no. So the roof of McCormick Place actually started to leak. If you've ever been in the East building of McCormick Place, you know that thing is basically 4,000 years old. And they just keep patching it up and rolling it back out there as a trade show venue. It's one of the reasons they built, the West building and updated North and South. But yeah, I'm standing in the booth watching it rain indoors. And the client's like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, you are going to go back to your hotel and relax. We are going to go buy a bunch of shop vacs and get to work on this carpet to make sure that we get all of this water out. And thank goodness the storm actually passed, and they were actually doing repairs. They got people up on the roof to do repairs, because obviously they couldn't have that. But they came back the next day, and Nicole was like, I don't know how you guys do it. You guys are like absolute unicorns. And it's like, yeah, we have no choice, right? Like, just as we said, the show's going to go on. Those doors are going to open no matter what. So you deal with what you have to deal with, and you make it right for the client. Yep. But that was like bringing weather indoors was something that I hadn't seen before. Or if you've ever been a setup in Chicago when the dock doors are open.
Oh, that's what I was just about to say. It must be a McCormick thing. We had our booth set up, ready to go. Client already been there. Great, approved it. We walked in the next day. The booth is laying on its side from when they opened the dock door, and the wind just from the river just blew it right over. So that was fun.
Being from Chicago, they do call it the Windy City, not for reasons you think. It's not because of the wind. It's actually because of the blowhard politicians that actually live there. But it is extremely windy. So it's got like that double entendre going for it. But yeah, I tell people all the time, like in the summertime, especially like in Chicago, and you're going into those buildings, be prepared to sweat like you've never sweat before, because you're just going to bake. And then in the wintertime, wear as many layers as you have, because those dock doors are going to be open when they're moving in freight, and that wind coming off that lake is going to be extremely cold and damaging too.
Yeah.
So I love that you're able to
another non-human one. And this happened this year. Big Island exhibit, 16-foot tower was kind of their hood ornament, if you will, in their space. And the install was basically complete. We're doing fit and finish and cleaning and getting furniture in place. And here comes a pigeon and lands on their tower and relieved himself down the side of the graphic.
Oh, no.
So clients saw this and laughed, and we're all kind of like, well, I'm glad you can laugh, but
shaking your fist at the pigeon.
It was insane. We were able to take it off and wash it and get it back on and ready for show open. But again, this is just kind of to illustrate the point. It doesn't need to be humans that are making some of these errors or freight or this.
Checklist. And I don't
Pigeons.
see, pigeon deterrents anywhere.
Well, don't go to Global Pet Show or Super Zoo because I saw lots of dogs relieving themselves at that show. Like, please don't go on my booth.
Yeah, right. Take them for a walk, just not inside my booth. Oh, that's funny stuff. But just like you said, like, there's only so many things and so many scenarios that you can plan for and run checks for. But how could you see a pigeon coming? How can you fight back against Mother Nature, right?
Yeah.
Like, how would you even see that coming indoors? There's no amount of checks or balances that you can put in place to overcome that pre-show. So again, when we talk about, knowledge that you have, the relationships you have in these venues and on the show floor, the relationships we have with our I&D partners to be like, at all costs, we're going to get this done and we're going to make it right for the client. Those are the type of things that really endear you to your clients. And those are the things, like, as you talk about relationship building, one of the things, the client that I was talking about was previously with the rain. We had gone through some other things that have gone wrong at shows, freight gone missing, Teamsters damaging things. If you've ever had to fire 3 different crews of electricians from your booth, you know how that could go too. When they're just like, I don't know where they got these guys, but we're hanging monitors, right? Not the Mona Lisa. I don't know what the problem is. You get titled. My title was the unicorn. It's like, you're absolutely magical. Like, how does this? I don't know how you overcome these challenges. And the reason is because we've done all of the pre-work and the homework to ensure that the problems are minimal. Like, nothing I love more than going to a show and have everything going as planned. That's the best, right? It's the best feeling, because then you look at your client, especially a client you've been through the wars with, where they go, you get a high five and you're like, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know how we sidestepped fate on this one, where nothing came up, but we were able to accomplish it. Those are the type of things that get you clients for life, right? Like, when they know they could depend on you no matter what happens.
Yeah, and you touched on it, Brian. It's the it's how you handle these things when they arise too. They're unforeseen, but no panic, calm. I'm going to go and we're going to buy a bunch of shop vacs and you're going to go to dinner and you're not going to be here while we watch this. Or a show a couple months ago, we left the night before the show. We come there and show morning to get her open up. Client's TV and soundbar no longer attached to their exhibit. I've seen that before. You've seen that before. They hadn't seen that before.
They were horrified. They were like, oh my God, what do we do?
They go into full panic. I make a couple calls, and by half hour into show open, we were replaced and rolling again without a step. But it's how you handle this stuff too, as much as getting it handled. It's keeping them calm. Maybe chaos behind the scenes, but you gotta, we've seen a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what kind of brings that calmness to the show floor. Going, we got this. No doubt. We'll get it.
No doubt.
Well, and not just fixing it, but then, you gotta, what about after? They need the help of, okay, you probably want to file a claim because something was stolen, or, we have that expertise of like next steps and what to do if those things happen, and how to get you back on track.
Yep. I always call it being the duck. You ever see a duck that they're gliding across the water, it look like nothing's happening, but below the water, they are paddling furiously, right? So I always say, at the show, you're looking at me and I look calm, cool, and collected, but trust me, in my mind, I'm paddling and trying to figure out how this is going to work, and I've rallied the troops. Be the duck. I always like that.
That's a good one.
I'll remember that one. I like that.
Too funny. So we talked a couple about like Mother Nature. We talked about freight issues coming up, like again with that blind spot once it's handed off to the show and getting things in. Sonja, you pointed out a great thing too, is like sometimes there's damage, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Duane's freight got stopped for some damage on a delivery. But sometimes there's damage and the client needs to be handheld or walk through, because again, there's things that we've dealt with in our careers or things that have come up that are brand new to them. And they're like, how do I go about this? Well, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do in the interim to make sure like the damaged piece gets replaced and fixed, or, we get something in from a service center, or we reproduce a graphic, whatever needs to happen to make sure that the show goes off correctly. But then post, how do we go about making sure that the claim is filed? How do we go through the show, all of the photographs and all of those types of things to ensure that the client is reimbursed for the issues and their time?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yep.
What else? Any other craziness comes to mind? I know I have one that I'll go with while you guys think about it, and it's not really a craziness. It's more of a we take risks when it comes to some of the things we do on the show floor. Like, and it's one of my favorite things about this industry, honestly, is the wouldn't it be great ifs, right? And I remember one of my first large exhibits that we did was in Orlando, and we had two double deckers side by side, and we connected them via a catwalk that had a glass floor, and it wasn't walkable, but we put clients' product up on top, and the product was kind of Zamboni style or ride on floor scrubbers for like big box stores like Costco, Walmart, things like that. And going through, they wanted to be able to see like the scrubbers and the technology underneath, so you can actually see the bottoms, because there was no other way to see them other than the parts and the pieces. So I remember the first day of the show open, I'm walking through the booth with the CEO, and he's, thanking for everything that went well. And he looks up and he goes, "Wow, that's really cool." And I go, "Yeah, that's something we had actually never done before, placing product like that." And he goes, "But what would be really cool if those were running?" And I was like, yeah, that would be great. That would be cool, except you're not going to be able to do it up above somebody because you're running with water, right? And you don't want to create a sprinkler onto someone's head. I go, but let me think about that for a minute. So went back, got together with the team. The next time they rolled that booth out, what we had done is we had built a stage that was about 1.5 feet deep and put lipstick cameras underneath, and had a 2-inch pane of glass that was 8 foot wide by 10 foot long. And talk about nail biting, right? If you've ever delivered glass to a show, and then it was so heavy, it took 7 guys with those suction cups to be able to place. So now you're like, don't touch it, don't smudge it, because I need to be able to see through it. But being able to put that in place. So it's not just about like handling things on the show, right? It's listening to the wouldn't it be great ifs and going, I'd love to make that come true for you, right? Like I can handle if something goes wrong, but conversations around, you know what? That's a great idea. I have absolutely no idea how we're going to do that, but we're going to figure it out, because stuff like that is what drives the industry. And quite frankly, what makes it super exciting. So the lipstick cameras went up on 4 large monitors on the back of the stage. People were driving on the glass on these Zambonis. And then as you went along, you're watching the rotation and the suction in the water. So it was one of the coolest exhibits I've done in my history. And it came from just, wouldn't it be great if that was running? So I love things like that. And wouldn't it be great if we didn't have pigeons in the booth? Wouldn't it be great if the Teamsters delivered the freight consistently, every time? That doesn't always happen, but you have to have the ability to react to those things. Anything else?
Collaboration. I mean, that's exactly what you're talking about right there. So think about it. Some guy said, "Wow, that'd be really great," and you go, he probably didn't think that you were going to actually take that and do something with it and start talking to people and figure out how to do it.
No,
That's
not
so
until I
cool.
brought it back to them, and I was like, "Remember that conversation we had?" And he was like, "Not really." And I'm like, "Well, it stuck with me, and I think it would be beneficial for your product and for your demo. Like that makes total sense. Like why we haven't, we should have been figuring this out previously. But I'm glad you mentioned something because we have a plan to do this." And everyone was like, "Wow, that's amazing, right? Being proactive as far as that concerned." But it was nail biting, right? Because we had one piece of glass. That's all we had. We had to make sure, like we again putting it down. It was literally of like 2,000 pounds. So putting it down and resting it in place, and while the lipstick cameras were positioned in the right direction, definitely something like makes you a little nervous. But the end result was better than anyone had thought.
Stunning. Yeah.
For sure. For
Nice.
sure. Well, I think we're getting rather toward the end here. Thank you guys very much for your time. This has been enlightening. And as you guys are watching this or listening to this, if you have some of your trade show stories, I'd love for you to post and bring some of that to light, because we know a lot of people in the trade show industry actually watch and listen to this, and they have their stories as well of things that have just gone off the rails on a trade show, and I'd love to hear how you and your teams have handled this. So Sonja, Duane, thank you so much for joining me here on Beyond the Booth. You guys have been great, and thanks for the stories and the laughs. This is a great venue for 3 people just to get together, especially with this much history in the industry and talk trade shows. So thanks everybody for listening or watching to Beyond the Booth. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify or on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast content. Be on the lookout for more coming to you soon. We're going to be doing some interviews from Event Marketer coming up, much like we did at Exhibitor Live. So there'll be some fill in before we get to the next one. But thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.